morning, good afternoon, good evening. Nelson Chamisa is one of those individuals who clearly have no idea why they were elected. They're so full of himself, he has no clue what is there he's supposed to be doing. And in his arrogance, naivety, he keeps making some of the most outrageous statements one can ever imagine. In his latest, or rather one of his latest posting, he says, the best decision I ever made as a leader in my leadership journey was to walk away from MDC and CCC. You will thank me later. I had to break the cycle of going in circles. And that was my best way to teach ED a lesson. I think some people have been speculating on what this cycle of going in circles was and what lessons he has taught ED. But I think they too are missing the point. The point that must be remembered and that Chamisa has completely missed is to ask, why have the people of Zimbabwe risked their lives, their livelihoods, these last 25 years to elect MDC CCC leaders? That is the starting point. The people have risked their livelihoods, their lives, and many have died in risking to elect the MDC CCC, Chamisa and company, into positions of power and authority. Why do I say risk their lives and livelihoods? We know that ZANU-PF has been a very vindictive party. It has punished the opposition leaders and their supporters. Whoever was considered a threat to ZANU-PF's iron grip on power has been a target. And the ordinary people in some of these cases have suffered worse than the leaders, because once you're in a leadership position, you are somehow protected by your prominence. But if you're the ordinary member, the regime can target you, punish you, and even kill you and get away with it. We've seen this. MDC CCC is not the first party, opposition party, to be given such brutal treatment. ZANU-PF did the same thing to PF SAPU during the Kukurahundi massacre of 1983 to 1987. There is no doubt that the primary purpose of Kukurahundi was to punish PF SAPO supporters and the leadership and beat them into submission. And the main reason was to force them to give up their existence as an independent party. Because at the time, PF SAPO was the only other party that posed a real serious challenge to ZANU-PF's continued rule. And so the people knew that by supporting the opposition, they will be equally punished, just as PF SAPO supporters were punished during Kukurahundi. Mugabe and these Kukurahundi thugs killed as many as 20,000 Zimbabweans during the Kukurahundi period. Some of them top leaders within PF SAPO, but many of them just ordinary supporters. And so when the people of Zimbabwe started to support the MDC CCC in the late 1990s when the party was formed, the people knew the regime will punish them, and punish them they did. Over the last 25 years, many ordinary people, some of them didn't even carry the opposition card, membership card, some of them did, were harassed, beaten, raped, had their properties destroyed, and many of them were even killed. But the number one reason the people still continue to support MDC was that on the understanding that once in power, the MDC leaders would implement the democratic changes necessary to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections, necessary to end the ZANU-PF de facto one-party state. That was the reason. And this has been explained to the opposition leaders themselves. But unfortunately, our politicians, once they get nearer power, they lose sight of the main reason they were elected. Occasionally, they admit and tell the truth why they were elected. Here is Morgan Tsvangirai himself explaining the very point of the need for democratic changes.
The governance culture is just replacing one individual with another individual with the same character and same culture. So I think it is foolhardy to think that replacing Mugabe with Emerson Mnangagwa without the fundamental reforms that are needed to transform the institution of governance, then you're wasting your time. You just have the same perpetuation of the same culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How was your working relationship with Mnangagwa during the gym?
Well,
so that concept was understood. You are in government as opposition, your number one reason is to implement the democratic changes necessary to stop the de facto one-party state, restoring the people's rights and freedoms, including the right to a meaningful vote, and even the right to life itself. That was the main reason. That was the primary purpose. People were risking their lives all these years to elect the opposition. And I think it would be amiss to fail to point out that the opposition did have the opportunity to implement those reforms during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. The primary purpose of the GNU was to implement the democratic changes necessary to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, notably to stop a repeat of the blatant cheating of the 2008, March 2008 vote, and the wanton violence that followed the runoff. Not even one token reform was implemented. And this is the reason why ZANU-PF was able to blatantly rig the 2013 elections. Chamisa was the leader who took over from Tsvangirai in 2018 when the late MDC leader died. And he was then leading the MDC alliance. And he told the people that MDC alliance was going to win those elections, even though it was clear that no meaningful reforms had been implemented. When the people pointed that out to him, he argued that MDC alliance had stringent measures to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. He was lying. People participated, they believed him, they participated, and by participating, they gave legitimacy to the emerging ZANU-PF government. It was after the 2018 elections that the wrangle of who really should have been the leader of the party after Tsvangirai's death came up, which led to him leaving MDC alliance. The first case he is talking about here, walking away from MDC. I argue that by that time, the damage was done. MDC had participated in flawed elections and given ZANU-PF legitimacy. How anyone can argue that that was somehow punishing ED, beggars belief. You had just given ED legitimacy. And now you want to tell us that you're punishing him. How? The 2023 was a repeat of the same situation. When he walked away from MDC Alliance, he formed CCC. He lied to the people, telling them that he was going to win 2023 elections because he had plugged all the vote-ranking loopholes. The people participated in those flawed elections because they believed that lie. SADC, I believe, as much as they condemned those elections as flawed, they could not deny the government that emerged legitimacy because the people had participated in those flawed elections. And so the morning after the elections, when Mnangagwa and company had been declared the winners, the damage was done. Chamisa then resigned, walked away from his CCC party. But by that time, it was too late. The damage has already been done. You have participated in a flawed electoral process and given ZANU-PF legitimacy. The people of Zimbabwe have risked everything to support MDC CCC on the understanding they would implement the reforms necessary to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. The dictatorship is still strong today. And that is all that really matters to them. And for somebody then to keep on arguing that somehow that tragic political reality does not matter. What matters is that he was punishing ED. Beggars belief. People did not elect you into office so that you could punish ED. Punish in what way? If you are facilitating ZANU-PF staying in power, and in this particular case, even lying to con your people to participate so that ED has got legitimacy, I think that is what really matters. For you to turn around and say, I'm punishing ED, well, you may be punishing him in your own mind, in your own ways, but giving him legitimacy and perpetuating the ZANU-PF dictatorship is the last thing that you are supposed to have been doing, because that is exactly the thing that people elected you to do, to stop, to implement the reforms and end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. You have failed to do that. I don't think the people of Zimbabwe, I don't think history will ever look at what Chamisa and MDC CCC have done in the last 25 years and say we've got to be thankful to them for, because there is nothing to thank them for. The people of Zimbabwe risked everything. And they did have the opportunity to implement the reforms and end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. They wasted it out of greed. And right now, Chamisa is gearing to con people to participate in the 2028 elections on the basis of yet another idiotic lie that the people can win rigged elections. Only at the end of the day to give ZANU-PF legitimacy and perpetuate the dictatorship. How anyone, even in their wildest imagination, can think that the people of Zimbabwe will be thankful for that treasonous betrayal, beggars belief. There is nothing to thank Nelson Chamisa for having failed to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, even when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And there is nothing to thank Chamisa for perpetuating the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Nothing. Thank you. Have a good evening.